This is another video for the course Spartan Society to the Battle of Leuctra, and we're looking at Spartan cultural life and Greek writers' views on Sparta. This video is focusing on the writer Herodotus. If we have a look at the syllabus here, we can see that he's the first one listed, and these are listed in chronological order from the earliest to the latest, and he is the earliest writer that we have for Sparta. Again, when we're looking at the issues with these writers, we need to take these kinds of things into consideration. The fact that they had preconceived ideas about Sparta, they had inherent biases towards or against Sparta. They were often influenced by previous writers. Sparta wasn't really open to discussing itself or allowing people to come and have a look around. Many of them are writing much later, and they either really admired Sparta or didn't. So Herodotus was the first writer we have about Sparta, and he's writing in the 5th century BC, and he's writing in the time period after the Great War between Persia and the Greek city-states, and he's writing essentially to explain why the Greeks were victorious in that war. And his book's called The Histories, and in that he gives us a little bit of information about the Spartans, but not a whole heap. It's not his purpose to write about the Spartans in particular, so most of what we have is in relation to that war. So he tells us a little bit about the Spartan army, he tells us a little bit about foreign policy, and he gives us a bit of an indication as to how other Greek city-states saw Sparta at the time, but not much more than that. There are some issues with Herodotus. He was the first person to attempt historical writing, which is why he's sometimes known as the father of history. But he didn't have a model to follow, so he didn't really question his sources or verify his sources. If someone told him something, he took that very much on face value and wrote that down as gospel truth, so to speak. So that needs to be taken into consideration when we read anything from Herodotus. He also doesn't give us any real information. He's not very useful for domestic policy or domestic life of the Spartiates. He is good in that he says he actually visited Sparta, but doesn't really describe much of it to us, so he's not very useful for that. The other thing we need to remember about Herodotus is he was pro-Athenian. Herodotus was in favour of the Athenian way of life in comparison to the Spartan way of life, but that doesn't mean that just because he favoured that doesn't mean that he was openly anti-Spartan, so he didn't go about attempting to say that Sparta wasn't a good city-state or was a poor model for society. So there's a few overviews for Herodotus and his approach to Sparta.